What's good, family? Welcome back to the channel. In this video right here, we have Dark Origins of Avatar, Secrets Exposed plus shocking Easter eggs. Now, I appreciate the person who did send this to my Instagram DMs. If you guys want me to watch any videos that we can watch together, you can send it to my Instagram DMs. My Instagram is right here. But without further ado, let's get straight into this.
And I don't think they realized that it was by design a kind of Trojan horse.
It was by design a kind of Trojan horse.
And I was so delighted to come on board and be part of this cast and be part of telling this story, which is about sort of finding the hero in all of us. And yet it's so completely different from any other story you've ever seen or heard about.
Is it really different than any other story you've ever heard?
I know Avatar 2 came out, and I'm pretty sure it's still like the highest selling movie ever. I haven't watched it yet though.
James Cameron is back. He is a director and writer for Avatar. It has become the highest grossing film of all time. It replaced the second highest grossing film, which James Cameron also made. That was Titanic.
James Cameron is the director of the highest grossing movie of all time, Avatar, the highest grossing movie of all time, which topped his other highest grossing movie of all time, Titanic. So I think if an enemy was in this world, or if a world ruler wanted to use something to manipulate the minds, to change the mindset of the masses, he would probably use something like the #1 top-selling movie of all time. Listen to what Cameron says right out of his own mouth. This is not my own words. This is what James Cameron, the director of Avatar, Titanic, and many more, Terminator, this is what he's saying out of his own mouth.
Telling a story that was simple in an archetypal manner.
I mean, the film, I think, was dismissed by some critics as being too simplistic, too familiar a story, just a sort of Pocahontas story.
That located them comfortably so they could have an emotional reaction.
So he's literally telling you that he's created this simplistic story that's kind of familiar to put you in a comfortable state, to get ready to receive his agenda, to get ready to receive the message that he has put into this movie as a Trojan horse. This is what he said.
You know, my focus was on the design, the fabric of the world, the feeling evoked by the watching.
When people have that within the film, they feel a sense of moral outrage. So
A sense of moral outrage. The movie evokes emotion, he said. So when you watch the movie, it's evoking a sense of moral outrage. But wait a minute, movies don't have an effect on us, do they? But yet he's telling you, I have an agenda, I have a message, I'm investing millions of dollars into this entertainment that it's packaged in as a Trojan horse, and you're going to sit down and be comfortable and watch it because it's going to change your mind about things.
By design, a kind of Trojan horse to allow you to deal with a very familiar and simple plot line that has these other layers and textures to it, which was my focus.
that is dealing with social, political, cultural, environmental themes.
He said his entire focus about making the Avatar movie was these layers of themes of cultural and social and political and environmentalist agendas. He said, I never had to make another movie. I was set. When I made Titanic, the highest grossing movie of all time, but he said he made Avatar because he wanted to put a message in there, an emotional message wrapped up in this Trojan horse of entertainment to invoke a certain emotion out of people that's going to stir up a moral outrage. That's what he said.
There are religious and spiritual themes
Right.
throughout.
Absolutely. And they're there by design. They're not accidental.
All the Christian mythology is there. The Buddhist principles are there. Then you come up with the Egyptian mythology. So I don't know. I mean, I know that you could not have done this without a conscious understanding of many of these principles. But in terms of the ecumenicism of it and the universality of these principles, I thought was amazing.
I wanted that environmental theme in there. I wanted.
It's very interesting because when I first watched Avatar, it was so long ago. Like I said, I didn't watch the second one, but back then, like, I really wasn't awake, like, to the reality of, like, Jesus or, you know, like, the spiritual realm. So it'll be really interesting with me watching it now because I could probably point out the specific things that they're talking about.
Kind of spiritual themes in there.
He said, yes, that was by design. That was not an accident that these spiritual things are tied into the movie. People all the time say, why do you make everything about the Bible? Why do you look so deep into it? It's not that deep. It's just a movie. It's just entertainment. He's telling you all this stuff was by design. I wanted those spiritual things in there. Yeah. And she said, oh, they had all the Christian mythology and the Buddhist principles. Why wasn't it Christian principles? Why'd you have to call it mythology? I just think it's interesting that she even picked up on the ecumenicalism of it. That this movie is supposed to enrage you about climate change, about the environment, but it's also tying in all the religions need to unite together and ecumenicism. So we know prophetically that there is going to come a time when there's a one world religion. What is going to unite all the world together? We already see the push with this whole ecumenical, environmentalist, green movement. The movement of green movement, because we need some kind of crisis that's going to affect the entire world. A crisis that's going to affect every person on Earth. And what is being pushed as that crisis? Climate change.
And demanding that President Biden declare a climate emergency.
The climate crisis is really happening, and if we don't act now, we will be affected on the future, and we, the kids, will be the one that will pay the consequences.
They also glued themselves to the window and the floor next to the car while shouting about the need to address the climate crisis.
We're using these actions to get media attention because we need to get people talking about this now. My soup video has now got 50 million views. People around the world are talking about it because this conversation needs to happen now.
If it got out that there was an environmental message to this film, it would cost us 50% of our box office.
If it got out, if the secret got out of the bag that there was an agenda in this movie, it would cost us half the tickets. So he had to keep it a secret that there was an agenda in the movie.
So I threw everything I had at getting it, at making it a great piece of entertainment. And that was the 3D and the CG and the creating the world and everything I knew how to do, every trick I knew to get people to come to a theater. And then every trick I knew as a filmmaker to engage them.
He said I had to throw in every trick I knew as a director, as a producer, every trick, deception, to get people to come to a theater to watch something that looks like entertainment because it's packaged that way. So for anyone that says it's just entertainment, you're looking too deep into it, that's what he was wanting you to believe. That was the trick. That was the Trojan horse that you fell for. See, when we look very deep into the plots, it's because we're looking at what's really there, not because we're seeing something that's not there. He's literally telling you that those spiritual themes are there, that those agendas are in there, and that he wants to evoke an emotional response out of you that's going to cause a moral outrage in you. That's what he's saying. So we're not the crazy ones. Anyone who's denying that there's an agenda in the movie, that thinks this is just mindless entertainment, are being willfully ignorant.
Yeah, that what you want to beyond being entertained by your characters and your story and your technology. You want them to wake up.
Beyond being entertained, you want them to wake up. Listen to his answer.
Look, I have no illusions about the efficacy of an entertainment motion picture in changing public policy. But as a society, we're in denial. Well, what is denial but a mental mechanism in response to an emotional reaction, which is fear? Fear of change, fear of an uncertain future, fear for our children, and the fear generates the denial. So I figure you fight an emotion with an emotion. Avatar doesn't teach you facts. It doesn't have one bar graph in it. It's not inconvenient truth. But it does create a sense of emotional outrage, and it creates a sense of hopefulness toward the end as good conquers evil.
And could you hope it creates a sense of urgency?
Absolutely. That's right.
Absolutely. I want it to create a sense of urgency. He said that he understands that his movie can change public policy, that it can change mindsets, and that's what he's trying to do with this movie. He even says that we're in denial, that denial is an emotional reaction or response to fear. Because people are afraid of the future, they're afraid of the future for their children. We're living in a sense of denial. And he said, I figure, you fight fear with fear. You fight emotion with an emotion. So he's creating this movie to invoke an emotion out of you to fight another emotion. This is a psychological warfare, and he's blatantly telling you that this is what he's doing. Psychologically bring a sense of urgency out of you, trying to get you to wake up. Now here's a news clip that shows people that after they saw the Avatar movie, they had this post-Avatar depression syndrome.
Check out this comment left on a fan website. Here it is. When I woke up this morning after watching Avatar for the first time yesterday, the world seemed gray. It was like my whole life, everything I've done and worked for, lost its meaning. Lost its meaning after watching this movie? That's what's going on here. Call in. I want to hear from you. How widespread is this phenomenon where people are feeling depressed? And I'm guess the way, in layman's terms, they see this.
Like I said, I didn't watch the movie in so long. I remember when I watched it, it was a great movie because, like you said, it was just very engaging. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but I honestly forgot the plot. But people are feeling depressed after this, with him also making mention of there being purposeful spiritual practices within the movie.
And especially if they see it in 3D, they're really feeling it. And then their world is not this. So that's what's leading to the depression in a nutshell.
It is indeed. And I think the depression is widespread enough that it is an actual phenomenon. There were over 1,000 posts on how to deal with post-Avatar depression on one of the Avatar fan forums, and that's just one of many fan forums where people have gotten together to talk about how they felt, just like that one commenter said, very depressed. They felt like the world was gray and flat after waking up after seeing Avatar.
Felt like the world was flat after watching Avatar. Anyway, on one forum, one Avatar forum, there was over 1,000 posts about dealing with post-Avatar depression. And that was just on one website. There was many other websites. What is happening here? You cannot deny this. You cannot deny that movies have an effect on your emotional state of mind, that it can change your way of thinking. People over and over say, that movie changed my life. The Matrix, it changed my life. These directors are openly telling you from James Cameron.
If it got out that there was an environmental message to this film, it would cost us 50% of our box office.
To Kevin Smith.
So I always like to think of it as like, I've got him sitting there, whip a little message at him, whip a little moral at him, whip a little of what my view of the world is, because that's what every good filmmaker does.
To the Wachowski sisters.
I'm glad that it has gotten out that, that was the original intention. In queerness, incorporate as many things as possible.
They're telling you that they have an agenda, that they're putting it in the movies because they want to change the world. This is what they're saying from their own mouths. This is not coming from me. Now here's a video clip of James Cameron talking about where he gets his inspiration from. Because if he is, in fact, being used by the enemy, if the enemy wanted to use influential people to try to change the world, to try and get people to believe a lie, that the dragon is going to deceive the entire world, then James Cameron would have to be getting this information from the spirit world in some way.
So this is going back to 1976, I think. I've already got a tall, hot blue girl. A lot of stuff comes to me in dreams.
Sometimes I write it down.
Sometimes and I quickly painted as many of them as I could remember.
One of them was a glowing forest and trees that kind of looked like fiber optics.
30 years later,
I'm making a movie where we're spending
millions of dollars to actually create that image. But
this is one of the first pieces of artwork
that I did for Terminator, even before I wrote it.
That's the image that came to me in a dream in 1981.
I always think of the universe as like a giant bank vault lock, you know, and the tumblers are constantly moving, and every once in a while the tumblers line up and you got to listen for the click.
He had dreams when he was 18 years old about Avatar, and now it is a reality, and now he's telling you that there's an agenda, that this is a Trojan horse to get you in a state of comfortability so that he can push his agenda in there of spirituality, ecumenicalism, and this push for this climate change agenda, this environmental agenda that's going to unite all the world together into a one world religion under ecumenicalism.
Parliament is a place where people of different faith, people of 80 nations come together to share humanity with each other, but seriously think about difficult issues like climate challenge.
It's very important for religious communities to be involved in environmental issues because most of the people in the world today, even today, are adherents of some spiritual tradition or religion.
I think there is a growing awakening to the need to return to our faith traditions and find within them a source of inspiration for a new relationship with the earth.
But as people of faith, we believe in God. We believe in human brain power to be able to do our job right and expect the blessings of God.
Faith-based environmentalism has become a tremendous strength to the environmental movement. And so in this way, the interfaith movement and the environmental movement are overlapping, and that is really a sign of great hope for us.
We, as interfaith leaders, can bring all our congregation together.
Faith working with faith, hand in hand, and do something to take care of the God's creation.
And James Cameron is being used in one of the biggest motion pictures of all time. And he's getting this information from the universe and from dreams. One thing I think that's really interesting is there's a documentary called Revival of Evil, and there was this art teacher, and he gave up on God, he cussed out God and started worshiping Satan, and he said, Satan, I want you to show me what you look like because I want to paint you and I want to look at that thing as a visual of who I worship so that it would give me more faith. And he said he shut out all the lights, closed all the blinds, and he pulled out a canvas and he started painting, and he said every movement he made was something else moving him.
Another force was physically directing my body. I painted for several hours and I was finished. It was the most fantastic painting I'd ever done.
And the painting looks just like one of those beings from the Avatar movies. So what does this word avatar mean? It comes from Sanskrit, and it means descent. It's actually the incarnation of a spiritual being or a powerful deity on earth. So I immediately think of the Garden of Eden when I think of a powerful entity that came to earth and manifested to Eve and said, eat this fruit from this forbidden tree of knowledge. There's also a sacred tree in the movie Avatar where Jake meets the woman at the tree. So the main character's name is Jake Sully, and he comes from out there to this Earth-like planet where he meets the girl at the sacred tree. And his name, Jake, originates from the word Jacob, which means supplanter, and the word supplanter means to transgress civil or moral law. His last name, Sully, actually means to defile. So this being whose name...
What is it? I need to see this definition right here.
His last name, Sully, actually means...
Sully is a verb. To make soiled or tarnished. Wow. Jake Sully. Okay.
To defile. So this being whose name means the lawbreaker who's coming to defile meets a woman at the tree. And an interesting thing to note is that he can't walk. Just like the serpent in the Garden of Eden was cursed to crawl on his belly from here on out. The planet's name is Pandora. And if you look at the story of Pandora's box, Zeus gave his daughter this box, but she was told not to open it. Very familiar with the story of the Garden of Eden where God put Eve in a garden and said, there's one thing you're not supposed to touch or eat from. Well, she opened Pandora's box, and out of it came all the evils to fill the earth. Just like when Eve bit from that fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and her eyes were opened, and the earth was cursed. It's also interesting to note that the actress's name who plays Natiri, the main character in the movie, her name is Zoe. When you look at the name Zoe, it's actually from the word Eve. This may be completely a coincidence, but I think it's interesting that the main character female, who is a representation of Eve in the garden next to that sacred tree, who is met by this being from out there who's a deceiver, who's coming to defile, is named Eve. So this movie, like so many other movies, has this Gnostic plot that this being from out there comes to Earth, meets a woman at the tree, falls in love with her, and now he's joining in a resistance against those beings. Just like we know that Jesus is coming to Earth, but who is going to fight against Christ and all his angels? It will be Satan and his army of wicked, who are uniting together with all the militaries of the world to fight Christ at his second coming. And if you're on the side of Christ, then we need not worry, because we're going to be caught up to meet the Lord in the air. It's the wicked who are running into the caves saying, "Hide us from the wrath of the Lamb." These movies that have this message tied into it, it's a Gnostic message, a message that's making you doubt Christ, that's making you think that God is some tyrannical villain that wants to destroy the earth, when really he wants to cleanse it of all unrighteousness so that we can live forever in a perfect world. But so many times movies are making perfection look like something to not be desired. Let's take a stand for God. Let's not put these wicked things before our eyes that clearly do have an effect on people's minds. Let's turn to the pages of the Word of God, and let's get in the truth so we will not be deceived by the counterfeit. If you were blessed by this and you think other people should see this, give it a thumbs up. That really helps the algorithm. Click subscribe if you've never subscribed to this channel, if this is new to you. And if you liked it, please share this video. And
man, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Like he just said, make sure you do smash the like button and subscribe if you are new. This video right here was from Light Exposes Darkness, if I'm not mistaken. If you guys want to watch it or find that channel, you guys can just look up this video and it should pop up. But crazy, yo, there's no denying it. You know what I'm saying? This was a phenomenal video. He just brought everything together and everything corresponding, everything correlating, from the names to the plot to the director, and him literally saying that, like, I want to push a specific agenda. It's really, really crazy. And then the plot of Avatar 2, with the dude that comes that can't walk like the snake, and them being in the garden. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. Make sure you do smash the like button. You can comment any videos down below or send some Instagram DMs that you want to watch together. I love you guys. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one the same way you're going to catch me in the next one. Peace.